Hello and welcome to another Q&A. This is a series where I put up a post on the YouTube post section and encourage you guys to ask me any question. Motorcycle related is usually preferred, and I take 10 to 15 best questions and answer them by the following weekend, usually. And first of all, let me start by saying that thank you so much for taking active part in these Q&A series. This really helps me learn a lot and add a little bit of value to your lives. So thank you so much for actively taking part in these series and asking me genuine questions, not what is a plus b whole square and all that. I'm not a math nerd and I will not be answering those questions. So let's begin. What is the most important thing that you can carry when you go on road trips, be it short or long? One most essential thing. Well, the most essential thing that I can tell you guys off the top of my head, and luckily I have it here only because I was shooting a reel, are zip ties. Make sure you pack these on your road trips or whatever it is, just pack a few dozen of these in your motorcycle. These are lifesavers, zip ties, remember that. How did this all start and where do you see this ending? My God, this is a huge question, podcast worthy. This started thanks to Abhinav Bhatt. He pushed me to create content around this, and I happen to be a video editor and an animator by profession. COVID also led me to do this, pursue this, because I had lost my job during COVID days. And where do I see myself going with this? Hopefully make a community out of this. I know, there's one guy who asked me to make a community on Instagram page and I still have not done it. I'm just waiting for a particular number that just makes me feel that I've achieved this, and then I can start a community also. Also, if you can suggest me a name for the community, that'll be really great. So far I'm thinking between gears, but isn't that repetitive? Where do you see this ending? Hopefully I'm not seeing this end at all. This will be a continuation. So I hope that helps. Every time I clean and lube my chain, on the first day everything's smooth. But from the second day I feel shifts are harder and there's some vibration from the chain. I could feel in the handlebar also in lower gears, but if I ride for like 100 kilometers, it gets smoother. I've ridden it for about 6,500 plus kilometers. Every time I lube it, I observe such pattern. Why? By the way, I have CB350RS and I use Motul C1 and C2. Thanks in advance. Good question. First, the chain makes a noise when it is dirty. It's just your motorcycle asking for a chain lubrication thing. Second, when you lube the chain, it forms a layer on top of it, and that layer gets a little bit thicker with use. So that also makes a little bit of that clattering noise. When immediately after you lube your motorcycle chain and go for a ride, things will be smooth because you've just lubed it, obviously. And then you'll hear this clattering sound again. This is because the lube has sort of a little bit hardened up, formed a paste of sort of thing, because the dirt will get stick to the lube and then again it starts to make that same noise. And after you've ridden your motorcycle for about 100 kilometers or so, the dirt and muck that was stuck to the chain because of the lube has now vanished because of centrifugal force in action, and the motorcycle starts to feel smooth again. That is the most logical explanation that I can provide. Other than that, this pattern comes and goes and it's very normal. And if someone else also has an explanation to this phenomenon, please go ahead and comment it. I will make sure to pin that comment. Thank you so much for asking a very good question. Which one to go for if money is not an issue? Bear 650 or Himalayan 450? Need your view on this. Mostly for city rides and occasional trips to home, approximately 250 kilometers. Also sometimes very minimal off-road, aka bad patches off the roads. Also, I don't have a problem with the weight for both the motorcycle, and I love to ride fast with proper gear on. Also, what would you be choosing for a single garage bike between those two that I mentioned? I mean, I know you love your Interceptor. To be really honest, I will suggest you to go for Himalayan 450. Now, a lot of people will debate this, but hear me out for just a minute. The Himalayan 450, although the slogan says it's built for all roads and it's built for no roads, made for Himalayas and all that, but Himalayan 450 is a very, very versatile motorcycle. If you want to tour on tarmac, it can do that effortlessly. You can cruise in speeds of up to 120, 130, 140 with ease. No problems whatsoever. You can haul luggage on it and you can travel effortlessly. And should you encounter some off-road patches, again, the suspension settings, the OEM suspension settings in this motorcycle is beyond anything that anybody's ever experienced. And mind you, these are not adjustable. The OEM settings I'm talking about, they are phenomenal. The 21 and the 17 combination makes things very easy if you also want to do occasional off-road riding. The bike is also very light, 196 curb weight, and you can reduce further amount of weight if you do some mods on the motorcycle. The bike is not that maintenance heavy. You just need to get it serviced in the recommended service intervals. The bike is pretty good actually. You can do anything on the bike, be it 30 minutes of riding on road or 30 minutes of trail riding or 30 days of touring. You can do it all. And also, you need not worry about the bike leaning so much because the newer models of the Himalayan 450 come with an updated side stand. This might seem like an RE pitch to you, but since you've given me those two motorcycles only, I'm leaning hard on the Himalayan 450 because I've just come back yesterday itself from a long ride to Jaipur and back. It was effortless. The gear shifts, the experience, the ride quality, fantastic. I love it. So I hope this helps you zero in on your choice. Next question really basically says that this gentleman is planning to look for a Himalayan 450 Camet white version, but he also likes the Hanley black version. And he's a little heavy guy. Comfort is the top priority. And he really has zeroed in on the Mana Black variant, which comes with a rally seat and a rally cowl. What he's asking is, should he opt for a different color? Because you can't really use a touring seat on the Mana Black variant and switch to a rally seat later on. I would definitely suggest you to go for a different color variant since Mana Black comes with a rally style cowl only and the rally seat is compatible with that rally cowl. However, the regular touring seat are not compatible with that cowl on. So my suggestion would be to either go for a Hanley Black or any other variant that you might like and then switch to a rally seat because it's very easy to do so. I've done that myself. And if you want to go for a rally cowl, you can do that in the future. That's about it. Next one. What should be the manufacturing date of a new helmet considering its life and expiry? Very good question. Usually when you are buying a helmet, the expiry date should not be more than 1 year or 2 years maximum. Keep in mind, helmets have an expiry date of 5 years. Some can have 7 years also, but I'm considering the average one as 5. So if the helmet manufacturing date is close to its end cycle, why to consider it? 1 or 2 years max. I hope that helps. Next question. Srini, what's your first bike? My first bike was a Classic 350. Black color. I loved my motorcycle. So much so that I kept it OEM and I just had one modification on it, which was the exhaust change, of course, like every Enfield Classic 350 owner does. But then the mods became a little aesthetic and I painted the engine, the chrome engine, all matte black. And after a month or two of me painting that engine black, Enfield launched its stealth black variant. So kind of my idea, but I loved that motorcycle and I had a kickstart as well. So pretty special one. Hi Sri, I'm a guy with height 6'3", looking for a bike for city commuting, touring on weekends with a knack of power, emotion and comfort, and I need a suggestion for a bike in the Royal Enfield setup because of its reliability, brand value and quality. Thank you Sri, regards JK. I believe I answered this question just a few questions ago. The bike that I would recommend from the entire Royal Enfield lineup is the Himalayan 450. It can do whatever you mentioned. It can do a city touring, it can do touring, it can do a little bit of off-roading, and it can do touring on weekends as well. So that bike is right up your alley and has decent amount of power to it. You just need to adhere to the normal service intervals and get your bike serviced in that period, and the bike will behave flawlessly. There are no issues. And again, as you yourself said it, it's reliable, it's versatile motorcycle, it can do it all for you. If there is one bike that you should have from the RE lineup in your garage that can do it all, I would definitely vote for Himalayan 450. What other things one should look after more after they hit 40k on Himalayan 450? Like how to know the piston is healthy, clutch plates and suspension redo. It is a bit of an open thing as many people are traveling on it and don't have much knowledge on the mechanics of it. Yes, I believe you're asking how to know what to do on your motorcycle after you've hit 40,000 kilometers on it. The general rule of thumb is once you've completed a year on the motorcycle, doesn't matter if you ride it or not, you need to complete a few things. Number one, flush out your brakes and put a new one. Flush out your fork oil and put a new one. This really helps your bike to behave predictably and normally and ensure that there are no leakage to it. And how to know whether the pistons are healthy or not? Well, that's why you keep in mind the service intervals that are recommended to you. And generally, people open up their engine and check for any abnormalities around the engine area, around the piston area at 20,000 kilometers. Since you've done 40,000, I would suggest you to check those once. Then get your throttle bodies and your pistons and everything checked up and cleaned. That should really help. Good question. Have you ever made mistakes when doing DIY work on your bike? And if so, how did you stay motivated to keep working on your ride? Well, part of the learning curve is to be able to do mistakes. Yes, there is a time when I was installing indicators on my interceptor and I accidentally jammed the wires of the indicator through the bolts, through the screw that I was putting on.
So apparently, while tightening the bolts, I tightened it so hard that I cut the wire accidentally of the indicator. Why? Because I'm a dumb person, that's why.
You idiot.
And I have to redo the entire thing.
Do it! And the wire got cut, and on camera when I was recording, and I said, look, the indicators will perform flawlessly. And I turned the bike on and I switched the indicators and it didn't work. And it took me about 30 minutes to figure out what I had done. And I had to just retrace my steps back, see the footage and narrow it down to what mistake I had done. So yes, it was a stupid mistake, but again, live to tell another tale. That's what I say. Thank you for asking this question. Between Gears, Between the Lines is a great name. I'm fairly new to your content and not aware if you've addressed this question, but I'm curious about what got you into motor content creation. The quality of your videos are really impressive. Do you write, shoot, edit and produce everything yourself? If yes, then how do you manage it all and what keeps you going? I believe I've answered this question in this Q&A also. It started by during COVID when I had lost my job, and my friend Abhinav Bhatt, whom you might have seen his videos on YouTube, he pushed me to make content on YouTube around the motorcycle. What content I would want to make was up to me, and I gradually narrowed it down to the DIY videos because there weren't many available on YouTube at that time. And yes, I write, shoot, edit and produce everything by myself. It's part of the gig. How do I manage? You just time everything. So if you wake up early, that's gym. I don't wake up early these days, so gym is getting skipped. But yeah, health is first, and plan your day accordingly. I do take care of the office work as well. Any meetings with the accountants and the clients, that has number one priority. And if I find some time in the day, which is I'm shooting content for you guys, and then I sit and edit throughout the night. And of course, getting a decent 6 hours of sleep is also important, which I do. And yeah, just plan everything. Just put everything on a paper. Don't overburden your mind to remember everything. It really helps. It really helps. Again, there is one dialogue that I always say. I don't know where I learned it from, but it really helps me. If it's not on page, it's not on stage. And that's about it. Thank you so much for asking these amazing, wonderful, insightful questions and allowing me to add some value to your lives. I really look forward to this Q&A series. It's Monday again, and I was late in posting a question yet again. And I'll quickly edit out these questions and answers for you and put it on YouTube along with the YouTube post section where I'll encourage you to ask me more questions. Thank you so much for taking active part in these Q&A series. I really appreciate each and every one of you. Now, for all those who feel that their question was not answered, don't worry, I will personally answer all your questions once I've completed editing this video. I'll see you in the next one. Thank you so much. Shri out.